Hey guys, this is Lori Earley with Phoenix Rising Acupuncture in Houston, Texas, and I am here with Caitlin. We wanted to just kind of pick each other's brains and see what we're doing with our clients or our patients right now, what we're doing right now to keep sane, to keep healthy, and just kind of dialogue and see what opportunities or options there are out there for anyone that really needs them. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. And just so everybody knows, this is an sort of an unplanned conversation. We're just going to see what happens. This is very organic, and this is just two people that have gone through similar schooling, and then after schooling went in slightly different directions, but have very similar ideas on what people can and should be doing, but still between each other, we have a lot. Like, I have a ton that I could learn from Lori. So I'm excited to be here and kind of like get her perspective on what she's doing right now, especially because you've had a pretty intense year even without this.
So in October is when I had my surgery for the breast implant. So I had those taken out, and I had those in for 19 years. So I took off about 2.5 weeks at that time. And then, we're just kind of building up, and we were in the process, or we are in the process right now of rebranding and just expanding our clinic and offering new services. And then everything is just in a way come to a halt. And we're like, okay, now what? It's been a lot of changes.
Yeah, same here. I mean, just this actually, not today, but 3 days from now, last year, I moved back to the States after being for Europe in 12 years.
Yeah.
Did I just say for Europe in 12 years? In Europe for 12 years. Coronavirus brain, sorry.
I know, right? So what are you doing now?
Now half of my work is online as it is. So I'm continuing to see coaching clients, and I really think that within the next couple of weeks, I'll have an uptick in clients, because people are starting to notice now that they're home for a few days that they are really tired, that they are a little bit burnt out, that they're not prepared for dealing with things like this because they don't have the emotional bandwidth for it. They don't have the emotional capacity to like handle what's happening. So I think that what I'm going to see is a lot more of my online work coming to the surface. And, I have the podcast too. So I am in between seasons at the moment of Fried the Burnout podcast. And so I've been releasing mini episodes called #Straight from Kate, which I've just been giving out like sort of what's going on right now, and reading parts of my new book to people, the Bounce Back Ability Factor, because that's something that we literally all need. Bounce back ability right now. We literally all need to find that inner resilience and trust and grit and surrender. So I've been doing things like that for other people. Those I've been continuing to create content and continuing to put myself out there and make myself available. And at home, I'm really lucky that both of us cook. My husband and I both cook. So we've been having just a lot of homemade meals with a lot of good vegetables. I ran out of vitamin D yesterday.
Oh no. Well, I actually heard that. So, the recommendations keep changing by the day. So I'm just following those closely. So vitamin C continues to go up. It's right now at 3,000 milligrams a day at separated doses. But vitamin D, they're suggesting don't overdo it because it could actually cause some harm if you do get infected. So that was as of last night is when I heard that. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you're good to go on your vitamin D.
Right. Maybe that's exactly why I ran out.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking the normal supplements that I always take. I have not upped anything. Like you, I'm an acupuncturist. So my husband had a little bit of a fever yesterday. We were a little nervous about that. It's gone today, but a fever comes up and I can do an acupuncture treatment and I can do cupping, and we have, we have ways to help ourselves while we're at home. So I'm not feeling really stressed about us being at home. I'm mostly, my big sort of concern now is people just not staying home.
Yeah.
I'm like, go home, people.
Yeah. And are you in New York, you said, or
I'm
where are
just
you
outside
now?
New York City in New
Yeah.
Jersey.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
there's
And
a
y'all
lot of cases here.
completely shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because New York, I was watching, they have the most cases by far, even more than California and Washington.
Yeah.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
what do you think that is? You think it's just because New York City is just a breeding ground and it can just travel so quickly because of the transportation, or?
I think the transportation has a major part to do with it. I think the other thing is, like the majority of people working in the city are paycheck to paycheck. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're not going to call out of work when they have a sniffle.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have. I mean, that's how I grew up. I would have never called out. I was a waitress for a long time. I would have never called out to work because I had a cold.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to miss a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Missing a shift meant not paying my rent.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, I closed down. I was meant to be in Poland, actually. I was meant to fly there last night and get there today,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously I did not do. First of all, because it's not a good idea. Second of all, because Poland has completely closed their borders and they're requiring 14-day quarantines for everyone that lands. Technically, because we're both dual citizen. Well, I'm a dual citizen and my husband is a Polish citizen. I
Mm-hmm.
could technically get into the country after that 14-day quarantine, but I mean, it's just not worth
No,
going through that whole process.
no.
So, here we are. And I feel like I did an extra podcast episode today because I feel like there's been a lot of, myself included, I'm totally included in this, a lot of judgment for how other people are reacting to what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a podcast episode today that was just sort of, first of all, I read part of the bounce back ability factor because there's an exercise in there that helps people transform emotions. But the whole idea behind it is like, we're all reacting. Everybody that's reacting right now is reacting from a place of their own levels of trauma, their
Mm-hmm.
current situation, and the support that they have or do not have. So
Yeah.
we're all reacting. Our coping mechanisms are based in our trauma.
Yeah.
So I just need that to be like out there really loudly right now, because people are not thinking, they are reacting, and it's going to take us a minute to sort through this stuff until we can sort of calm down and figure out, which direction we need to go. It took me just a few days, but I've been practicing this shit for 18 years.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay to be scared still. It's okay to be anxious still. It's okay to not be sure, to be overwhelmed. I mean, if I was in the situation I spent most of my life in,
Mm-hmm.
working in a restaurant, making ends meet, only making enough money to pay my bills, and then starting all over again, I cannot tell you how I would feel right now.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the people that are like, well, let's look at the silver lining, I'm like, how about you give the people that don't have a silver lining yet a
Yeah.
little bit of space to have their own reaction and their own fears and their own whatever's coming up,
And I think the only silver lining in that aspect is that so many other people are in the same boat.
Yeah.
So that they aren't alone. But yeah, it's scary for small business owners, for anyone working in restaurants. And I
Pretty
mean,
much any small business owner. Like
any
my
small
office is
business.
closed now. I don't know that I'm going to be able to afford to open it again once this is over. I don't know.
I know. That's how I feel too. And like I said, we were like all in the expansion process, and it's like just come to a halt.
Yeah.
So the cool thing, for whatever reason, it was I came in earlier this week to the clinic to see what all we had in stock. And I was like, why the heck do we have so many herbs for infectious disease when we are a fertility clinic and I specialize in autoimmune and chronic illness? And my associate was there and she was like, Lori, you don't remember back in November you were telling us to start taking our herbs and you started ordering all these herbs for like pathogenic disease? I was like, no, why was I doing that? She was like, I don't know, but you told us then something big was coming. Something big was coming. I was like, I did? I said that? I don't remember. She was like, but yeah, so we have so many herbs right now. And I think my frustration is I'm telling my patients and I'm sending out newsletters. The newsletters are going out like day by day
Yeah.
on just the updates and the recommendations and how we can support them and the importance of taking the herbs because of prevention,
Yeah.
early stage, and then really up until, that whole fever, chills, flu type symptoms. We have all of those herbs to support them, but they are just so entrenched in their fear.
Everybody is. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody
And
is.
their reactions are coming out exponentially heightened to what they
Yeah.
normally would.
Of course.
So anyone who was like a little bit leery about taking herbs, they're like, no, it's laced with whatever. And, so it's,
But you know what I think the good thing is? Now that you've been giving them that information for days and days and days at a time, if they do start to feel sick, that might be the first place they turn. Like we're seeing online that you can't take ibuprofen. People don't have. We have, because we're in this alternative medicine world. I have quercetin at my house all the time. I have, bottles of omega-3 because I take that on a regular basis.
Exactly.
Like I already have vitamin C at home because we always take vitamin C. Like we have these things in our homes.
Right.
People don't. So I think that by letting them know now, even in their time of fear, by the time they come to the other side of it and they see somebody around them getting sick, you will be the first person that they turn to because they know that you have something that can help.
Yeah.
And they're not sure what to take from Walgreens because
there's nothing.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like on a few of my Instagram posts, I'm just talking about how really conventional medicine has nothing to offer them until they are late stage and they need hospitalization and
ventilators.
Support. Yeah. And it's like we have so much to offer for preventative, not only with herbs, but with dietary recommendations, lifestyle recommendations.
Yeah. What are your top 3 things that you're telling people to do now?
So for vitamins and supplements, definitely up the vitamin C, take zinc if you have it. It's wiped off the shelves. I don't even have it in stock. Vitamin D. And I also read, and this seems really interesting, was that as we age, our melatonin levels decrease.
I read this too.
And what they're learning is that the lower the melatonin levels, the more at risk you are and susceptible to the virulence of the coronavirus. And so I only had maybe a half a dozen bottles left of melatonin. So I set those aside for my patients 65 and older.
Right.
And I let them know, I was like, from now on, take it until this is gone, just to up your levels of melatonin. And then for my younger patients, if they have blue light blocking glasses, to start wearing those with the screen because they're online more. And just, so that's more from a physical perspective. We've talked about the diet, the greasy foods. This is a damp pathogen. What does that mean to be a damp pathogen? And how can you,
there's going to be people listening to this that don't know what the heck you're talking about. So why don't you go into that for a second?
Okay. So from a Chinese medicine perspective, we have pathogenic illness, and then it can be described in certain categories. So we have your toxic heat, which is like you run really hot, feverish, you get scorched and high fever, everything dehydrates. You have cold pathogens, you have damp pathogens, etc. So what coronavirus or COVID-19 has been labeled as is a damp pathogen. And damp pathogen, if you think of dampness, it's like the mucus, phlegm that accumulates in our system, and then it gets stuck. And usually there's phlegm accumulation that occurs in the lungs. So we already know that people who are at higher risk are those that have underlying lung disorders like COPD, emphysema, they're smokers, etc. But other people that we're noticing are at higher risk are people who have more of a damp constitution, and that would be, metabolic disorders, overweight, obese, hypertension. And so the goal is, when there's certain foods that can increase that dampness in our body, and that's going to create a happier breeding ground for the virus or bacteria, right? And specifically for this virus. And then there's foods that we can take that kind of clear out that dampness to make it a healthier environment for us so that the virus doesn't really take hold. And so damp foods are like the typical American diet: dairy, processed foods, sugar, alcohol, fried foods, basically anything that you can get at a restaurant.
So what do you say to someone right now who's like, I'm not giving up my wine, what can I add instead?
Yeah. So make sure you're staying hydrated, because the wine it does cause that dampness, the phlegm. I actually had a patient who is menopausal. And so for those of us in Chinese medicine, when you look at a tongue of a person, of a patient who's menopausal, there's usually not a coat on their tongue, or it's very, very thin. But whenever she came in to get her herbs this week, I was like, let me look at your tongue, make sure I'm giving you the right herbs. And she had a thick white coat. And I was like, what's going on with you? Have you been eating funky? Because she's like super healthy. She was like, yeah, I've been fine. I was like, did you drink wine over the weekend or drink this? She was like, oh yeah, I've been drinking a lot. I was like, okay. I was like, let me give you the right herbs because we want to cut that. So just staying hydrated, just knowing and being aware that that can lead to not only that dampness, but it lowers the immune system and it increases inflammation. And then things that we can do as far as food therapy is, I mean, what I've been doing is something easy is just getting raw, the root ginger and slicing that up and creating ginger tea and adding some lemon to it. So things like lemon can kind of squelch that dampness a little bit. What about you?
I always love to give people things that they can add rather than things that they can take away, because right now so many things are being taken away that people are a little oversensitive to, like, well, I bought the damn chocolate, so I'm going to eat it, Yes. Fine, eat your chocolate. However, follow it up, like you said, with a ginger tea. If you want to increase your ability to fight off the pathogen, the most important herb in Chinese medicine for fighting off external pathogens is cinnamon, right? So if you make a cinnamon ginger tea, then you're boosting that a little bit better. And the best way to do this, if you happen to have cinnamon sticks and fresh ginger at home, put 2 cinnamon sticks, 4 big chunks of ginger, throw them into a pot, like full 2 quarts, like a big soup pot, fill it up, let it sit for an hour, and then bring it to a boil, simmer it for 20 minutes, and then drink that as like your normal fluid throughout the course of the day, 2 days, 3 days even. You can leave it room temperature. That's fine. You don't have to drink it warm all the time. It's already been warmed up. It's already been cooked. If you want it warm, great. Warm it up, drink it. If you are okay drinking it out of a pitcher, room temperature, fine. Do it that way. That's a really great way to support yourself. Like you said, more water is always super important when it comes to damp. And the other thing that I'm telling people is to bounce.
Yes. So good.
Just basic bouncing, like jumping jacks or just bouncing up and down, helps to move your lymph system and move some of that damp out of your body. If you are somebody who's already sort of holistically minded and you have a dry brush at home, now's a really good time to be dry brushing your skin to keep that lymph moving. But if you're not that person, after you get out of the shower and you're already warm, bounce for 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Just bounce. It sounds like a silly thing, but it will keep things moving in your body and make it easier for your body to flush out any of the dampness that comes up.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's a silly thing, but a helpful thing.
Yeah.
Did you see I think it was Peter Dedman posted a 20-minute Qigong video for the lungs?
I saw it. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, there's so many resources coming out right now. And I think that his video was actually pretty powerful and really well done, and quickly done in order to get out to people. And so that's on my Facebook page, and I can find a link to it when we finish this video so that we can send it to people. But this is one of those things that, like, if you want to be doing some sort of movement that was going to help you, we have specific moves in Chinese medicine that are designed to support your lungs.
Right. Did you see I saw there was an article written where there were doctors in Wuhan with their patients in the hospital, and they had their patients up, and they were in their suits, full body gear suits, but they were doing the Qigong with their patients. And it was like, this isn't for the patients to, just get moving. It was really for recovery,
Yeah.
to focus on that lung recovery.
Yeah. And so Qigong literally translates translates into the cultivation of energy. So it's just about boosting the energy in particular parts of your body. And they've done it for thousands of years. So yes, they can focus on the lungs. Will it strengthen your whole body? Yes. But they can focus on the lungs or the liver or the kidneys or whatever it happens to be. So if you are someone who's a little concerned, like, you might want to Google Qigong for your lungs and do the videos that pop up. I think that that's a really powerful way to keep yourself strong. And also, that type of movement requires breath work and mindfulness at the same time. So in addition to boosting your lung energy, will also help you reduce anxiety, which is a nice little, it's like a side effect.
Yeah.
You'll be calmer by side effect, which is lovely.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I'm talking to my patients about is really, I mean, we can all get so caught up in the things that are going on right now, and it really is changing by the hour, and there's so many updates and breaking news. And I'm just like, for my patients who are really suffering from anxiety and fear, I'm like, you got to turn it off, read the book, laugh, connect with friends, like, whether it's on the phone or whatever. But I talked about how fear is a virus too, and fear can suppress the immune system and cause so much damage anyway. So
and that's something that I want to be careful about talking about things like that, because somebody who's already feeling fearful is just going to feel more fearful if they're feeling fearful.
So it's like a catch-22. It's
right,
like propagates it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that I was doing a live with someone yesterday, and she was saying, well, you need to face your emotion. Don't Netflix right now. And I'm kind of like, if you need to Netflix right now to sort of ignore yourself for a few minutes and give yourself a break, I'm totally okay with that. Like, give yourself a break. And I did release that podcast episode today that teaches you how to stop, name, label, feel, transform, and release an emotion. It's a complete exercise that's there for you. You even if you've never done it before, it's not difficult. All it requires is your ears and you being still for 6 minutes. It's a pretty simple thing. So what I want to say is, no matter what emotion whatever emotion you're going through, fear or overwhelm, anxiety, whatever it happens to be, give yourself a little bit of space to be human. Realize that emotions are okay and part of this scenario, and then try some exercises to help you move through it. And if you are if you could be fearful from 0 to 100% and you're at 110% and you do this exercise, you might only be brought down to 90. That's acceptable right now. That's a totally okay thing. Do it again and bring yourself down to 85. Do it again and bring yourself down to 75. Do it again and bring yourself down to 60. This is going to be a gradual process, and we can't tell you what you're going to feel, because like I said in the beginning, your reaction now is dependent on who you are, what your situation is, what your support is, your current level of knowledge around what's happening, and your current level of safety, plus your previous traumas in your life. So if you're scared out of your mind, please know that it's not just about this either. And this is a good opportunity, especially because most of us have the time to work through those emotions in a way that is healthy. So you can listen to my podcast. That's an option. If you don't want to do that, I would look up some YouTube videos on either breath work or somatic processing, either of those two things. And you'll find plenty of resources that will help you learn how to be with, handle, and transform your emotions. Because in Chinese medicine, technically, we don't believe that emotions are bad unless they're untransformed, unless they're stuck, right?
Yes.
So just don't let them get stuck, you guys. That's all. You can have them. Yeah. You can have them. Just don't let them get stuck.
Yeah. When this was coming on, and it really hadn't hit the U.S. yet, or maybe it had just started in Seattle, and the news was starting to build up about it, my go-to, because I'm an NAET practitioner too, and what I love about that is that I can treat with acupuncture, but then I can treat for the frequency of an emotion. And so I have like over 200 emotion vials. And so I can tap into whether it's insecurity, fear, panic, anxiety, depression, all of those things. And so you can combine it with a specific vial. For instance, I was combining it with the virus vial, because the virus is like all the viruses are compiled into that one vial. And then I was adding in fear. And when I was adding in and testing the patients against those vials, you could tell their strength or their weakness.
Yeah.
And so based on whatever their weakest emotion was with the virus vial is what we were treating to clear. And so it's, we do the treatment, and then over the next 25 hours is the clearing process, where they just kind of do an emotional detox from it.
Yeah.
So
that's
that
awesome.
was really cool. Mm-hmm.
Do you do any EFT?
I have an EFT practitioner that I go to personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the basics of it, but what I use with my patients for more of emotional release is I do emotion code.
Mm-hmm.
And, I do a few things with, teaching them where to tap and things like that, but I wouldn't say that's one of my main tools.
Yeah. Mine either. It's something that I like and something that I've used for myself, but not something I feel strong enough to be teaching. But that is, if you don't want to do somatic processing or Qigong, and you think that my exercise on the podcast is wacky, then you could look up EFT, emotional freedom technique. And that there's also like a shit ton of resources on YouTube for how to do this in your own space, in your own time, to help you transform and process emotions. Like, there's so many tools available. So the reason that I'm trying to get through so many of them that are available to you at home is because I want you to feel that even if you can't get to your practitioner right now, even if you can't get into somebody's office right now, that there are things that you can use. And if you need to talk to somebody, then call one of us, call your practitioner, even if you're going to use your treatment time to just talk it through.
Yeah.
That's an okay thing to do right now. Like, we're here for that.
Yeah. I welcome that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I have some of my patients from Prague that I haven't seen in a year, but I have some of my patients from Prague that have said, like, can we book calls this week? I'm like, yes, please talk to me. They are in total lockdown. They've already been in lockdown for days. And, sometimes you just need to talk to somebody who's going to hold you in a space of being the professional.
Right. Versus like venting to each other.
Yes.
Like we would with girlfriends. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know when I was going through all my major stress, like I've had a really difficult past 5 years, I would say, like severely difficult. And my boyfriend was like, why are you going to a therapist? I'm like, because I'm venting to you and I'm venting to my girlfriends, but I need like a professional that can actually get me grounded and give me some good advice. Not that theirs wasn't, but it was outside of that.
Yeah.
Really friendship.
Somebody being outside is a little more objective and not as afraid to say the things that need to be said, which is what my patients always tell me about me. They love to talk to me. My clients say the same. They love to talk to me because they know I won't lie to them.
Right. Yeah.
One of my patients today, or clients today, she was saying that she wants to do this thing, but she's really afraid, and it's a creative outlet. And I said, well, I want you to do, but before the time I talk to you next, I want you to do 50 submissions and get 50 rejections. She said, I'm aiming for rejections. I said, yeah, absolutely. You need to get over this fear of putting stuff out there. So I need you to go for rejections on purpose so we can get through this, And we both started laughing, and she was like, oh, now this feels like a game and I'm good. And I was like, right, exactly. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like, go take care of yourself. So we're here for this. Like, this is Chinese medicine, I believe, is the original life coaching, because lifestyle medicine is built into what we're taught. Stress management is built into everything we do. Everybody that has finished Chinese medicine school is an expert in stress management, like, bottom line. Mm-hmm. So if that's where you are and you're stuck and you don't know how to process this stress, just the two of us in the past 15 minutes have come up with 14 ideas. Right. And if we're talking to somebody like personally, then we can come up with an idea that works for them personally. Like, there's so many ways to help yourself at home in your space right now. And if you need to reach out and have somebody give you some guidance on that. Like that's what we're here for now, I think.
Definitely.
Yay. All right. I think, what do you think? You think that's enough for today?
I think that's good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right.